The city was wrapped in the amber glow of a late October afternoon, the kind of light that set the cobblestones aglow and turned the tallest oaks into fiery towers of gold and crimson. A sharp breeze stirred the leaves into a lazy dance, scattering them like whispered secrets across the narrow streets of Edinburgh's old town. Evelyn Munro stepped out of her quaint flat with a soft sigh, pulling her emerald green woolen coat tighter against the chill. The woolen hat perched on her head was snug, but she welcomed its warmth as the wind teased strands of her auburn hair loose. Her tote bag hung comfortably from her shoulder, bulging slightly with a worn leather-bound journal and a compact umbrella, just in case the unpredictable Scottish sky decided to weep. As she closed the heavy wooden door behind her, the scent of damp earth and aging stone filled the air, a fragrance only a city as ancient as Edinburgh could produce. Evelyn inhaled deeply, savoring the moment. Autumn was her favorite season here, not just for the colors, but for the way the city seemed to slow down, as if it, too, was preparing to rest beneath its winter blanket. Her boots clicked softly on the familiar cobblestones as she made her way toward the meadows, the sprawling park nestled just beyond the terraced houses that lined her street. This park had become her sanctuary over the past year, a place where she could escape the buzz of her job as a historical archivist at the university, and lose herself in the soft rustle of leaves and the distant calls of blackbirds. Evelyn's thoughts drifted as she walked. It had been 6 months since her arrival in Edinburgh from Boston, and already the city had worked its way deep into her soul. She loved everything about it: the Gothic spires, the narrow alleyways that seemed to hide centuries of stories, and the way the light shifted in the quiet mornings. Her favorite spot was a gentle knoll overlooking Arthur's Seat, the ancient volcano that stood sentinel over the city. She often brought her sketchbook there, capturing the jagged silhouettes of castle turrets and the dance of shadows on the hills. But today, she wasn't carrying pencils or paints. Today, her mind was too restless for art. The day was unusually bright for this time of year. Patches of blue peeked through the shifting clouds as Evelyn crossed the park's paved paths, crunching fallen leaves beneath her feet. The grass was still surprisingly lush, the greens vibrant against the scattered oranges and yellows of autumn's gifts. Ahead, she spotted a man throwing a stick for a large golden retriever, the dog bounding with reckless joy and scattering leaves into the air. The sight brought a faint smile to her lips. Simple moments like these made the city feel like home. Her peaceful walk was interrupted by the buzz of her phone vibrating in her coat pocket. She pulled it out with a small frown. A message from an unknown number: "Meet me at Greyfriars at dusk. The past is not as buried as you think." Evelyn blinked, a shiver running down her spine, not from the cold, but from a sudden wave of unease. Who could this be? She hadn't shared much about her work or the secrets she'd uncovered digging through dusty manuscripts and forgotten archives. Her curiosity was instantly piqued. She glanced around, but the park seemed just as serene as before. No sign of anyone watching her. Her fingers hovered over the reply button, but she hesitated. Could this be a prank? Or something more? Her pulse quickened. Greyfriars Kirkyard was not just a historic graveyard, it was a place steeped in legend, tales of ghosts and unsolved mysteries whispered by locals for generations. Evelyn's work had recently brought her face to face with an ancient diary, one rumored to belong to a secret society that once thrived within Edinburgh's shadowy alleys. The diary mentioned the Watchers, guardians of knowledge too dangerous to be revealed. Could this message be connected? She slipped the phone back into her pocket and quickened her pace toward the narrow alleyways leading to Greyfriars. The city seemed to darken around her, the sun dipping behind heavy clouds. The streets, usually bustling with tourists, felt eerily empty. Passing the sandstone buildings, Evelyn noticed the sharp contrast of the city's ancient stones against the vibrant street art that decorated the walls nearby, a clash of old and new, much like her own life these days. As she reached the wrought iron gates of Greyfriars Kirkyard, a cool gust swept through, rustling the dry leaves into swirling eddies at her feet. The air smelled faintly of moss and forgotten memories. Evelyn pushed the gate open with a creak, stepping into the hallowed ground. The fading light cast long shadows over weathered tombstones, some tilted at odd angles like silent sentinels watching over the dead. Her heartbeat echoed in her ears as she scanned the path ahead. Somewhere beyond the towering yews and ancient oaks, the unknown awaited. She moved forward, her breath visible in the cool air, and whispered to herself, "The past is never really gone. It's just waiting for us to find it." The air inside Greyfriars Kirkyard was heavier than outside, as if the weight of centuries pressed down on Evelyn's shoulders. The dying light filtered weakly through the skeletal branches overhead, casting eerie patterns across the moss-covered tombstones. Evelyn's footsteps echoed softly along the narrow stone path, her breath quick but controlled. The message on her phone replayed in her mind, "The past is not as buried as you think." Who had sent it? And why now, when she was just beginning to piece together fragments of a puzzle long forgotten? Her eyes scanned the graveyard, searching for any sign of life. At the far end, near a crooked angel statue, a figure slipped behind a crumbling mausoleum. Evelyn hesitated, her heart pounding, then called out, "Hello. Who's there?" Silence. The figure didn't answer, but suddenly emerged into view, a woman, cloaked in a dark green coat with a hood pulled low, her face partially obscured by shadows. She held a small leather satchel close to her side. "You shouldn't be here alone," the woman said in a low, urgent voice. Evelyn took a cautious step forward. "I got your message." "Who are you? What is this about?" The woman glanced around nervously before replying, "My name is Isla McGregor. I've been following your research. You're closer than you realize." Evelyn blinked in surprise. "Following me? Why? And how do you know about the diary?" Isla's eyes flickered with something fierce. "Because the diary you found is only part of a larger secret, a secret that certain people have killed to protect. You're digging where you shouldn't." Evelyn's mind raced. She thought her archival work was routine, dusty, and dull, but clearly, it wasn't. "Show me," Evelyn said, voice steady despite the adrenaline rushing through her veins. Isla nodded, then led her deeper into the graveyard, where the graves grew older and the stone monuments more elaborate. They stopped before a massive crypt, its iron gate rusted but firmly locked. "Here," Isla whispered. "Beneath this crypt lies the entrance to the Watcher's vault." Evelyn stared at the imposing structure. "But how do we get inside?" Isla pulled a set of ancient, tarnished keys from her satchel. "I've spent years searching for these. They're the only way." A sudden rustling nearby made them both freeze. Evelyn's heart leapt. From behind a gnarled yew tree, a shadow detached itself and stepped forward, a tall man with piercing gray eyes and a scar running down his cheek. "You shouldn't be meddling in things beyond your understanding," he said coldly, voice like grinding stone. Isla's face hardened. "Morrison. I thought you were dead." Morrison smirked. "Like a bad rumor, I always come back." Evelyn's pulse quickened. Clearly, this was no ordinary graveyard. These were no ordinary people. Before she could react, Morrison lunged forward, knocking the keys from Isla's hand. They clattered to the ground. A brief scuffle erupted. Evelyn ducked instinctively as Morrison pushed Isla back, but Isla recovered quickly, drawing a small dagger from her coat. The fight was swift but fierce. Morrison, skilled and ruthless, managed to pin Isla against a tombstone. Evelyn, acting on instinct, grabbed a heavy stone from the ground and slammed it into Morrison's arm. He howled, loosening his grip. Isla twisted free and stabbed Morrison's leg. He staggered but grinned menacingly. "Run," Isla urged Evelyn. They bolted through the maze of gravestones, Morrison's curses echoing behind them. Breathless, they burst out of the graveyard into the dusk-lit streets. The city around them seemed peaceful, oblivious to the deadly game unfolding in its shadows. Isla looked at Evelyn, determination blazing in her eyes. "This is just the beginning. The Watchers have kept their secrets for centuries, but now they're waking. And you're the key to unlocking what's been buried." Evelyn swallowed hard, the weight of the moment sinking in. What had she stumbled into? And was she ready to face the darkness hidden beneath Edinburgh's beauty? The city lights flickered on, casting long shadows across the ancient stones. Autumn whispered its secrets, and Evelyn knew her life would never be the same. The night wrapped around Edinburgh like a velvet cloak, thick with mist and mystery. Evelyn's footsteps echoed down the narrow, winding alleyways as she followed Isla through the labyrinthine streets, their breath puffing out in clouds beneath the flickering gas lamps. "Where are you taking me?" Evelyn asked, trying to keep pace. "To a safe place. We need to talk away from prying eyes and ears," Isla said, her voice tense but steady. They slipped into a small, tucked-away pub called the Black Thistle, its dark wooden facade nearly hidden between two towering stone buildings. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of peat smoke and aged whiskey. A few patrons glanced their way but said nothing as Isla led Evelyn to a secluded corner booth. She pulled out an old, leather-bound book from her satchel and set it on the table with a heavy thud. This, Isla began, is the Watcher's Codex. It's the key to understanding what you've uncovered. Evelyn leaned in, eyes wide. The codex was filled with cryptic symbols, faded ink sketches of strange devices, and passages written in a mixture of Latin and Old Scots. Who are the Watchers? Evelyn asked, tracing a delicate sketch of a star-like symbol. A secret society formed centuries ago to guard knowledge dangerous to mankind, Isla explained. They were scholars, alchemists, and mystics who uncovered truths that could unravel the world. And the diary I found? Evelyn pressed. It belonged to one of the last Watchers, Isla said. A woman named Elspeth Kerr, rumored to have discovered a portal beneath the city, one that connects this world to realms beyond our understanding. Evelyn felt a chill. She had heard legends of hidden tunnels and forgotten chambers beneath Edinburgh, but had dismissed them as folklore. Isla's voice dropped. Morrison and his followers want to control that power. They believe it can make them unstoppable. How do you know all this? Evelyn asked. Isla hesitated, then sighed. My family has been involved with the Watchers for generations. I was trained to protect their secrets, but I left after a betrayal tore us apart. Betrayal? Evelyn echoed. Yes, Isla said grimly. Morrison was once one of us. He turned against the Watchers, seeking power for himself. He orchestrated the disappearance of many members, including Elspeth. Evelyn's mind raced. The pieces were falling into place, but the picture was far darker than she imagined. Why me? She asked quietly. Because you have the blood of the Watchers, Isla said, eyes locked on Evelyn's. It's why you found the diary. Your ancestors were protectors of this knowledge. Evelyn's pulse quickened. Was this why she'd always felt drawn to history and secrets? A sudden noise interrupted them, a door creaking open, footsteps approaching. Isla's eyes narrowed. Hide, she whispered urgently. Evelyn barely had time to duck behind the bar as a group of shadowy figures entered, the same men she'd seen earlier with Morrison, their faces grim and watchful. The leader, a tall man with cold eyes, scanned the room. Isla McGregor, he said, voice dripping with menace. We know you're here. Isla's grip tightened around a small dagger concealed in her sleeve. Evelyn's heart hammered. They were surrounded. Before Evelyn could react, Isla slipped a hand into her pocket and pressed a small, carved stone into Evelyn's palm. Keep this safe, Isla said fiercely. It's a fragment of the seal of Aether, a powerful relic that can protect you and reveal hidden paths. The leader's gaze locked onto Evelyn, suspicion flickering in his eyes. Suddenly, a piercing whistle shattered the tension. Go. Isla hissed, grabbing Evelyn's hand. Together, they slipped out the back door, plunging into the fog-shrouded streets. As they ran, Evelyn clutched the stone tightly, its smooth surface almost warm in her palm. She glanced at Isla, breathless but determined. "This is bigger than I thought," she said. Isla nodded. "And we're only just beginning to uncover the truth." The ancient city of Edinburgh held its secrets close, but Evelyn knew she was meant to unlock them no matter the cost. The fog hung thick over the ancient cobblestones as Evelyn and Isla sprinted through Edinburgh's twisting back streets, their breath ragged in the cold night air. The carved stone in Evelyn's palm seemed to pulse faintly, as if alive, a beacon of hope and mystery all at once. They ducked into an abandoned bookshop nestled between two looming tenements, its windows dusty, its shelves sagging under the weight of forgotten knowledge. Isla pushed open the creaky door and flicked on a small lantern, bathing the cramped interior in a warm glow. "This place belonged to my grandfather," Isla whispered. "He was a watcher, one of the last guardians of the seal of Aether." Evelyn traced the faded runes etched into the bookshop's walls, feeling the weight of centuries pressing around her. "What is the seal of Aether?" Isla moved to a hidden panel behind the counter, revealing a narrow stairwell leading down into darkness. "It's a mystical artifact, said to bind the fabric between our world and the realms beyond the realms Elspeth Kerr's diary spoke of." She lit a torch and descended, Evelyn close behind. The air grew colder as they entered a subterranean chamber lined with ancient symbols glowing faintly in the torchlight. At the chamber's center lay a massive stone altar, cracked but still imposing. In its heart rested a hollow cavity shaped perfectly to hold the fragment Evelyn now carried. Isla knelt and gently placed the carved stone into the hollow. Suddenly, a low hum filled the chamber. The runes on the walls flared to life, casting eerie light across their faces. Evelyn gasped as visions flickered in the shadows, glimpses of long-forgotten rituals, starry skies swirling with celestial beings, and a towering gate of light pulsating beyond comprehension. "It's opening," Isla breathed. "The seal is responding to you." Evelyn felt a surge of energy course through her veins, memories not her own flooding her mind, ancient watchers standing against darkness, battles fought in silence beneath the city, sacrifices made to protect humanity. A sudden crash echoed from above. The chamber trembled. Footsteps pounded down the stairwell. "Morrison's men!" Isla hissed, grabbing Evelyn's arm. "We don't have much time." Evelyn clutched the altar, her newfound connection to the seal grounding her. "Tell me what to do," she said, voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her. Isla pulled from her satchel a worn leather pouch filled with dust from rare herbs and crushed crystals. "Sprinkle this around the altar. It will create a barrier, at least for a while." Hands shaking, Evelyn obeyed, scattering the powder in a glowing circle. The light intensified, forming a shimmering dome that muffled the sounds from above. The footsteps paused. A gruff voice cursed in the dark. "Damn it! She's activating the seal." Evelyn and Isla exchanged a determined glance. They were trapped for now, but the seal's power was awakening. Isla's eyes gleamed with fierce resolve. "We need allies." The watchers aren't gone, they're hidden, waiting for the right moment. Evelyn nodded, feeling the weight of destiny settling on her shoulders. The chamber hummed, the visions deepened, and the night whispered promises of secrets yet to be revealed. The shimmering barrier flickered but held strong, isolating Evelyn and Isla in the ancient chamber beneath Edinburgh's streets. Outside, the heavy footsteps and muffled curses of Morrison's men were relentless, pounding closer with each passing moment. Evelyn's heart hammered, but her resolve hardened. The seal of Aether was no longer just an artifact, it was a living force, choosing her as its bearer. Suddenly, Isla's lantern flickered violently before going out, plunging them into near darkness. "Stay close," Isla whispered. "They might be trying to disrupt the seal's power." From the shadows emerged a figure, cloaked and hooded, moving with uncanny silence. "Who's there?" Evelyn demanded, clutching the altar. The figure lowered the hood, revealing a young man with intense, emerald eyes and a faint scar tracing his jawline. "My name is Callum," he said calmly. "I'm one of the hidden watchers." Isla's expression softened. "We weren't sure if you'd come." Callum's gaze flicked toward the barrier. "I sensed the seal's awakening. We must act fast." He produced a small wooden box and opened it, revealing a collection of ancient charms and a delicate silver dagger inscribed with runes. "The seal's power attracts dark forces," Callum explained. "Morrison seeks to harness it to open the gate and unleash chaos." Evelyn swallowed hard. "What's this gate?" "A doorway to the Shadow Realm," Callum said. "A place where twisted beings hunger to cross into our world." Isla nodded grimly. "And Morrison plans to tear down the barrier forever." The chamber trembled as the attackers launched their assault on the barrier, sharp weapons clanging against the glowing dome. "Time's running out," Callum warned. "We need to secure the seal's fragments before he does." Evelyn looked down at the carved stone in her palm, the first of many. "We must find the others," Isla said urgently. "There are 6 fragments in total, scattered across Scotland's ancient sites." Callum's eyes gleamed. "And we have only days before the lunar eclipse, when Morrison's ritual will reach its peak." A distant howl echoed through the tunnels, sending chills down Evelyn's spine. "Then we don't have a moment to lose," she said, steeling herself. Together, the trio prepared to break the barrier. Isla began chanting in an ancient tongue, weaving protective spells, while Callum carved the rune into the dagger's blade. The dome shimmered, then burst in a cascade of sparks as the barrier fell away. Outside, the fog swirled thick, hiding them as they slipped into the night. "First stop," Isla said, voice low, "the standing stones of Callanish. Legend says the second fragment rests there, guarded by forces both natural and supernatural." Evelyn's pulse quickened. A journey into the wilds awaited, ancient magic, hidden dangers, and the looming shadow of Morrison. But for the first time, she felt ready. The city's lights faded behind them as they vanished into the misty Scottish Highlands, chasing fragments of a forgotten power, racing against time and dark forces eager to reclaim their dominion. The fate of two worlds hung in the balance. The night air was crisp and biting as Evelyn, Isla, and Callum made their way through the dense Scottish Highlands. Mist curled around ancient stones that rose like silent sentinels against the darkened sky. Callanish, a place whispered about in legends and feared by locals. Evelyn's boots crunched softly on the heather-covered ground, the carved stone fragment warming in her palm as if guiding her steps. Her thoughts swirled, the urgency of their quest pressed heavily, but a strange serenity settled in her chest, as though the land itself was acknowledging her arrival. "Stay alert," Callum murmured, eyes scanning the shadows. "The guardians of the stones do not take kindly to trespassers." As they approached the towering circle, a chill wind stirred the grass and whispered through the monoliths, carrying a faint hum that seemed to vibrate beneath their feet. Suddenly, from the darkness between the stones, figures cloaked in shadow emerged, druidic guardians, their faces obscured by hoods and ancient masks carved from stone and bone. Isla stepped forward, her voice steady but commanding. "We come seeking the fragment of the seal. We mean no harm." The leader of the Guardians raised a hand, the air thickening with an unseen power. "The seal is a force not to be wielded lightly. Many have fallen to its temptation." A tense silence followed. Then the leader's voice softened. "If you are truly the chosen, you must prove your worth." Evelyn's heart pounded as she nodded. "Tell us what we must do." The Guardians led them to a massive stone altar etched with symbols identical to those in the Codex. The challenge was clear, a test of courage, wisdom, and heart. One by one, Evelyn and her companions faced trials, from solving ancient riddles to confronting illusions born from their deepest fears. Evelyn found herself standing alone before a swirling vortex of shadow, the ghostly visage of Morrison flickering within. "Give up the quest, Evelyn," the apparition hissed. "Your bloodline is cursed. This power will destroy you." But Evelyn's resolve burned bright. "I will not let darkness claim the city or myself." With a cry, she stepped forward, the carved stone glowing fiercely. Light erupted, dispelling the shadow and sealing the vortex. The Guardians lowered their weapons, nodding in approval. The earth trembled as the second fragment rose from the altar, a crystalline shard shimmering with ethereal light. Isla caught it reverently. One step closer. As they prepared to leave, a sudden roar shattered the calm. Morrison himself, emerging from the forest, flanked by dark figures and twisted creatures born of shadow. "The seal will be mine," he bellowed, eyes blazing with madness. A fierce battle erupted beneath the ancient stones. Isla's dagger flashed, Callum's charms glowed, and Evelyn tapped into the seal's awakening power. The ground cracked, the stones resonated, and the night blazed with ancient magic. Exhausted but undeterred, Evelyn grasped Isla's hand. "We must keep moving. There are still 4 fragments to find, and Morrison grows stronger." The battle faded into echoes as they fled into the highland mists, their quest far from over. The first light of dawn barely pierced the heavy mist as Evelyn, Isla, and Callum stumbled through the rugged terrain of the highlands. Their breaths came in ragged gasps, hearts pounding not just from the exhausting escape, but from the weight of what lay ahead. Evelyn's fingers brushed the crystalline shard, the second fragment now safely nestled in her satchel. Yet the victory felt hollow. Morrison's relentless pursuit was a shadow stalking every step. Where to next? Evelyn asked, voice hoarse but determined. Isla pulled out an ancient map, edges frayed and symbols barely visible. The next fragment lies within the forgotten caves of Glenmore, a place swallowed by time and guarded by ancient enchantments. Callum's eyes narrowed. Few who enter Glenmore ever return. The caves are said to be alive, shifting and twisting, confusing all who dare enter. Evelyn swallowed her apprehension. We have no choice. If Morrison reaches the fragments first, the consequences would be catastrophic, Isla finished grimly. As they approached the mouth of Glenmore, the landscape grew eerie. The trees twisted into unnatural shapes, their branches resembling gnarled hands reaching skyward. A cold wind whispered through the leaves, carrying faint echoes of voices long lost. The cave entrance yawned before them, a jagged maw leading into impenetrable darkness. Remember, Isla warned, the caves respond to fear. Keep your mind steady, or you'll be lost forever. Torchlight flickered as they ventured inside. The walls seemed to pulse with a faint, otherworldly glow. Strange glyphs appeared intermittently, as if alive, shifting and rearranging themselves. Suddenly, the ground trembled. A low growl echoed through the cavern. From the shadows emerged a creature neither fully beast nor spirit, its eyes burning with ancient fury. Callum stepped forward, chanting softly. Runes on his dagger gleamed, and a barrier of light shimmered between them and the creature. The beast snarled but was held at bay. Evelyn's heart raced. The cave was testing them, pushing their limits. Deeper inside, the group reached a subterranean lake, its waters as black as the void. Floating on the surface was the third fragment, a shard of smoky obsidian, humming with power. Isla stepped forward but paused. This lake mirrors the soul. Only those who confront their deepest regrets can claim the fragment. One by one, the trio peered into the lake, visions swirling, memories of past mistakes, lost loved ones, moments of pain. Evelyn saw herself standing at a crossroads years ago, hesitating when a friend needed her most. The weight of guilt almost crushed her. But she steadied her breath. I won't run anymore, she whispered. With newfound resolve, she reached into the lake, her hand closing around the obsidian shard. A shock of energy surged through her, illuminating the cavern in blinding light. Suddenly, Morrison's voice echoed, "You cannot escape destiny, Evelyn." The cave shook violently. The path out collapsed behind them. Trapped. Isla's eyes flashed. This is no accident. Morrison's magic reaches farther than we thought. Callum clenched his fists. We'll find another way. The quest isn't over. As darkness closed in, Evelyn realized this journey was changing her, forging her into something more than she ever imagined. And somewhere deep within, the seal's power was awakening, ready to confront the coming storm. The collapsed tunnel behind them sealed the way back, plunging Evelyn, Isla, and Callum into near-complete darkness. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of damp stone and something older, something almost alive. Isla fumbled for a small vial glowing faintly with an azure light. This is essence of Lumira. It'll help us see through the illusions that twist these caves. Evelyn uncorked the vial and splashed a few drops onto the cavern walls. The darkness peeled away, revealing a narrow passage spiraling deeper underground. As they proceeded, whispers surrounded them, soft voices echoing from unseen places, speaking in languages forgotten by time. Callum's voice was steady. The labyrinth feeds on memories and fears. It will try to trap us in the echoes of our past. Evelyn shivered but pressed on, each step echoing ominously. Suddenly, the passage opened into a vast chamber where shimmering reflections danced across a still pool of water, the heart of the labyrinth. From the water rose a figure, a woman cloaked in silver, her eyes reflecting stars. "I am Seraphine, guardian of the labyrinth of echoes," she intoned. "To claim the fourth fragment, you must face the truth within yourselves," Seraphine said, her voice both comforting and chilling. Visions erupted. Evelyn saw the faces of lost family, moments of betrayal and forgiveness. Isla confronted the memory of her sister, taken by forces aligned with Morrison. Callum wrestled with his failure to protect a fellow watcher. Tears and determination mingled as each accepted their truths. With a graceful gesture, Seraphine revealed a fragment suspended above the pool, a shard of pure moonlight, shimmering with untold power. As Evelyn reached out, a shadow lunged from the darkness, Morrison's hand, grasping for the fragment. A fierce struggle ensued, the chamber shaking with unleashed magic. Isla's dagger struck true, severing Morrison's grasp. The fragment pulsed and merged with Evelyn's growing connection to the seal. Breathing heavily, Evelyn knew the battle was far from over, but each fragment brought her closer to understanding and to stopping Morrison's dark ambition. The air was thick with tension as Evelyn, Isla, and Callum emerged from the labyrinth of echoes, the weight of the four fragments heavy in their hands and hearts. Yet, a growing darkness seemed to follow their every step. Morrison's shadow stretched long, creeping closer with every passing moment. "We can't afford to linger," Isla urged, scanning the misty horizon. "The next fragment lies hidden in the ruins of Dunrot Keep, an ancient fortress swallowed by the sea and time." Evelyn nodded, her eyes steeling with determination. "If Morrison gets there first, everything we fight for is lost." Their journey took them across rocky cliffs and windswept shores, the sea's roar masking the whispers of unseen watchers. As they approached Dunrot Keep, the air grew colder, carrying the scent of salt and old battles. Inside the crumbling fortress, shadows moved with eerie purpose. Ghostly echoes of past sieges seemed to replay in the cold halls. Suddenly, from the darkness, a new figure stepped forward, a tall woman with silver hair and piercing blue eyes. "You seek the fragments," she said calmly. "I am Morwenna, guardian of Dunrod. And I will test whether you are worthy." The trial was one of spirit and resolve, forcing Evelyn to confront the pain of loss and sacrifice she'd long buried. As the battle within her soul raged, Morrison's forces attacked from the shadows, forcing an intense confrontation amid the ruins. Magic and steel clashed as allies and enemies faced off beneath the ancient walls. In the midst of chaos, Evelyn reached the fifth fragment, a glowing pearl pulsing with the heartbeat of the sea itself. But Morrison's laughter echoed through the storm. "You cannot stop what is coming." With the fragment secured but the danger escalating, Evelyn realized the final challenge awaited, one that would test not just their power, but their very humanity. The sky above Dunrod Keep churned with thunder and lightning, the sea's fury mirroring the chaos unfolding within the ancient fortress. Evelyn, Isla, and Callum stood panting amidst the rubble, the fifth fragment, a luminous pearl, clenched tightly in Evelyn's hand. But Morrison was not far behind. As the wind tore through broken battlements, a cold voice cut through the storm. "You've come far, but this ends now." From the shadows emerged Morrison himself, his eyes glowing with unnatural light, veins pulsing with dark energy. Around him swirled a tempest of shadowy creatures, twisted forms born from nightmares and ancient curses. Evelyn's heart thundered. This was more than a battle for fragments, it was a fight for the very soul of the world. Isla stepped forward, dagger gleaming with runes. "We fight not just for ourselves, but for every soul this darkness threatens." Callum raised his hands, chanting in the old language. Runes appeared beneath their feet, forming a protective circle. The battle erupted, magic clashed with shadow, steel met claw, and the ground shook beneath their feet. Evelyn felt the seal's fragments resonate within her, power surging through her veins. She raised her hands, summoning a radiant shield of light that pushed back the encroaching darkness. Morrison snarled, launching a torrent of shadow fire, but Evelyn met it head-on, the fragments glowing brighter with each pulse. Suddenly, a figure appeared at the edge of the battlefield, a man cloaked in white, his presence commanding and serene. "Enough," he declared, voice like rolling thunder. Morrison faltered, eyes narrowing. "You again." The newcomer stepped forward, revealing a face both familiar and enigmatic. "I am Alaric, last of the original Watchers. And this war is far from over." With a gesture, Alaric channeled ancient power, dispersing Morrison's shadowy minions in a wave of light. Evelyn's breath caught. Allies had arrived, but the true challenge was only beginning. As the storm raged on, Evelyn realized that to save everything she loved, she would have to unlock the full power of the seal and confront the darkness within herself. The dawn broke over Dunrod Keep in a muted wash of grey, the storm's fury spent but leaving behind a lingering sense of unease. Evelyn stood at the edge of the ruined battlements, the 6 fragments of the seal now glowing faintly in her satchel. Alaric's presence was a steadying force beside her, his eyes reflecting the weight of ages past. "The final fragment lies hidden in the heart of Edinburgh itself," he said, voice heavy with gravitas. Beneath the city, where the ley lines converge. Isla and Callum gathered close, their expressions hardened by the battles fought and those yet to come. Beneath the city. Evelyn echoed, a shiver running through her. You mean, under where we live? Alaric nodded. Yes. The city was built over the ancient nexus, a focal point of mystical energy. The last fragment is both the key and the lock. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and shadows flickered at the edges of their vision. Morrison was not defeated, far from it. His dark influence seeped into every corner, corrupting and twisting. We must prepare, Isla said, drawing her dagger with renewed determination. The final confrontation will decide everything. Evelyn's thoughts raced. The seal's power pulsed within her, but so did a strange darkness, a whisper that urged her toward a path she feared. Alaric placed a firm hand on her shoulder. Trust yourself. The power chooses its bearer for a reason. As they descended into the labyrinthine catacombs beneath Edinburgh, memories flooded Evelyn, faces, voices, and visions not her own. The past was alive here, and it demanded to be reckoned with. Deep within the nexus, the final fragment awaited, guarded by trials that tested not just strength, but the very essence of one's soul. And as the city above slept unaware, a war for reality itself began to unfold. Beneath the ancient streets of Edinburgh, deep within the nexus, Evelyn, Isla, Callum, and Alaric stood before the final chamber. The air quivered with raw magical energy, the very walls humming with the power of the seal's last fragment. Before them lay an altar carved from black obsidian, etched with glowing runes pulsing in rhythm with Evelyn's heartbeat. This is it, Alaric said solemnly. The seal's final fragment will either restore balance or shatter everything. Evelyn stepped forward, feeling the weight of destiny heavy on her shoulders. The darkness inside her stirred a whisper, tempting her toward a path of destruction and power. She clenched her fists, willing herself to resist. Suddenly, the chamber darkened. Morrison emerged from shadowy mists, his eyes blazing with fury and madness. You think you can stop me? He snarled. I will tear down the veil between worlds and rule both. Isla and Callum rushed to engage him, their weapons blazing with ancient magic. The chamber erupted in a fierce battle, spells collided, steel rang against shadow, and the very earth trembled. Evelyn focused on the altar, reaching out to touch the final fragment. As her fingers closed around the crystalline shard, a blinding light exploded, enveloping the chamber in pure radiance. The darkness screamed and recoiled. Morrison lunged desperately, but Evelyn's newfound power formed a shield, repelling his assault. You cannot win, she declared, voice steady and strong. The seal's light will protect what is good and true. With a final surge, Evelyn unleashed the seal's full power. A wave of brilliant energy swept through the nexus, purging shadow and corruption. Morrison howled, his form unraveling into wisps of darkness before disappearing entirely. Silence fell. Breathless, Evelyn looked around at her friends Isla's fierce smile, Callum's relieved nod, and Alaric's proud gaze. "The balance is restored," Alaric said softly. "Thanks to you, Evelyn." Evelyn felt the darkness within her dissolve, replaced by a calm warmth. She had become more than a guardian, she was a beacon of hope, the light beyond the shadows. As they ascended back to the surface, the first rays of dawn painted Edinburgh in golden hues. The city stirred awake, oblivious to the battle fought beneath its streets. Evelyn smiled, knowing the world was safe for now. But in her heart, she understood this was only the beginning of a new legacy, one she would protect with all her strength. Title: The Seal of Aether, Shadows over Edinburgh. Description: In the mist-shrouded streets of Edinburgh, Evelyn Monroe's life takes a mysterious turn when she uncovers an ancient diary tied to a secret society known as the Watchers. Drawn into a perilous quest to collect the 6 fragments of the legendary Seal of Aether, Evelyn must navigate haunted graveyards, mystical highlands, and forgotten ruins. Pursued by the ruthless sorcerer Morrison and his shadowy minions, she forges unexpected alliances and confronts dark forces threatening to tear open a gateway to a realm of nightmares. With the fate of 2 worlds hanging in the balance, Evelyn must unlock the seal's true power and face the darkness within herself before it consumes everything she holds dear. A thrilling tale of magic, courage, and ancient secrets where the past is never truly buried, and the light must rise beyond the shadows.